So, an innocent man, a slick political spin doctor, a notoriously corrupt governor, and a secret assassination plot.
Sounds like a modern thriller, honestly.
Right. And it all culminates in this desperate appeal to the most powerful man in the world. But today's deep dive isn't a true crime story, or, well, maybe it is, but it's for the book of Acts.
Specifically looking at chapters 24 and 25.
Exactly. But before we unpack exactly how the Apostle Paul navigates this deeply corrupt Roman legal system, I just want to take a brief moment to offer a sincere divine blessing for your day and for the week you have ahead of you.
That's a wonderful thought.
Yeah, I mean, whether you're listening on your commute or just taking a quiet moment for yourself, I truly hope the insights we're about to explore bring you not only enlightenment, but, a profound sense of uplift and encouragement.
I completely agree. And it's always such a privilege to share this space with you, the listener, and to dig into material that really demands we look below the surface.
Definitely. And today, we're pulling heavily from the historical context in the Holman and NAA Study Bibles to really set the scene. Because, we're all familiar with Paul's theology, right?
Sure, yeah.
But chapters 24 and 25 require us to look at him through a totally different lens, like as a master of Roman jurisprudence.
Which is fascinating.
It is. We are sort of stripping away the stained glass window vibe to examine his trials before the governors Felix and Festus. Our mission today is to figure out how Paul survives a system that was entirely designed to crush him.
And he does it using brilliant rhetorical strategy and just this airtight grasp of Roman law.
Yeah.
Which is such a vital framing. I mean, reading these chapters simply as religious texts kind of misses the intense geopolitical chess match happening in the background.
Oh, absolutely.
Paul is basically fighting for his life in a courtroom where the rules are constantly bending to the highest bidder.
So let's drop right into that courtroom.
Yeah.
It's in Caesarea. It's been 5 days since Paul was arrested by a mob in Jerusalem.
Right, the mob scene.
Yeah. And the high priest Ananias and the elders arrive to prosecute him, but they don't speak for themselves.
No, they don't.
They bring in this ringer named Tertullus, and the text refers to him as an orator, which, I don't know, sounds a bit quaint to modern ears.
Like a guy giving a speech at a banquet or something.
Right. But looking at the context, we're essentially looking at an ancient corporate PR spin doctor.
Yeah.
Or like a high-priced defense attorney.
That is precisely what he was. I mean, the Greek term used for his profession really implies a highly trained jurist.
Right.
In the Roman provincial legal system, local leaders didn't just, walk into a Roman court and state their grievances.
They wouldn't know the jargon.
Exactly. They hired a specialist who knew the exact legal phrasing, the specific procedural protocols, and, most importantly, how to manipulate the psychological ego of the presiding Roman judge.
And you can see that manipulation immediately. Tertullus starts his opening argument with a heavy dose of flattery.
Captatio benevolentia, yeah.
Right. This technique, designed to capture the goodwill of the judge. He praises the governor, Felix, for his provident care, the peace he's brought, and the reforms he's enacted for the Jewish people.
Which is just wild to read.
It really is, because looking at the historical record, this feels like an absurd piece of theater. I mean, Felix was an absolute butcher, right?
Without a doubt.
He was universally despised by the local population.
Yeah.
So why is Tertullus laying it on so thick if literally everyone in the room knows it's a lie?
Well, because it's a required part of the political ritual, you're totally right to highlight Felix's actual reputation.
Yeah.
He was infamous among imperial administrators for his sheer cruelty. Actually, he was a former slave who had essentially bought and murdered his way to power.
Wow. Bought and murdered his way up.
Exactly. So when Tertullus talks about, profound gratitude for Felix's peace, it is entirely hollow.
Just totally fake.
Right. But it serves a legal function. It publicly strokes Felix's ego and establishes that the Jewish leadership is playing by Rome's rules.
I see.
It's a transaction. Tertullus butters him up to set the stage for the actual attack.
And that attack comes in the form of 3 highly calculated charges against Paul.
Very specific charges.
Yeah. Tertullus calls him a pest who promotes seditions and riots among Jews globally. Second, he calls him the ringleader of the Nazarene sect.
Right.
And finally, he accuses him of trying to profane the temple in Jerusalem. Now, calling someone a pest sounds like a playground insult.
It does sound a little funny in English.
Yeah. But in this context, that first charge of sedition, That is the deadliest weapon they have.
It really was. It was the only charge Rome actually cared about, frankly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because the overarching doctrine of the era was the Pax Romana, the Roman peace.
Right. Keep the peace at all costs.
Exactly. Provincial governors had one primary job: maintain order and ensure the taxes kept flowing to Rome.
Makes sense.
If a governor let a rebellion brew, the emperor would remove him, and often violently.
So it's life or death for Felix, too.
Absolutely. By accusing Paul of inciting riots all over the world, Tertullus is totally bypassing theology and hitting Felix where he is most vulnerable.
Wow.
He's essentially telling the governor, look, this man is a global threat to the empire's stability, and if you don't execute him, you are failing Rome.
Man, the tension in that room must have been suffocating.
Oh, palpable.
Tertullus paints Paul as this global terrorist. The local leaders are all nodding in agreement. And then Felix gestures for Paul to speak.
The moment of truth.
Yeah. Now, an ordinary person facing execution would probably panic, maybe beg for mercy.
Sure, totally normal reaction.
But Paul does neither. He methodically dismantles the entire argument using logic and timelines.
It really is a masterclass in defense strategy. Notice how Paul completely bypasses the obsequious flattery that Tertullus used.
Yeah, he doesn't stoop to that.
No, he simply acknowledges that Felix has been a judge over the nation for several years, which establishes his respect for the court, and then he just drives a bulldozer straight through Tertullus's timeline.
Yeah, he points out that it hasn't even been 12 days since he arrived in Jerusalem to worship.
12 days.
The sheer logistics of antiquity make the prosecution's case impossible. I mean, you cannot orchestrate a massive, global, empire-toppling rebellion in 12 days.
Especially when half of that time was spent traveling and undergoing ceremonial purification.
Right. He was there to bring charitable offerings to his nation. And the study notes point out these are the funds he had painstakingly gathered from churches in Macedonia and Greece.
Exactly. The 12-day defense completely destroys the sedition charge.
Just wrecks it.
Yeah, he was ceremonially clean in the temple, causing no crowds and no tumult. But the true brilliance of Paul's defense is how he handles the procedural law.
This is the part that fascinated me the most. Paul points out this glaring hole in the prosecution's case. He says the Asian Jews, the men who actually grabbed him in the temple and started the riot, they aren't even in the courtroom.
Right, they're nowhere to be found.
So I have to ask, is this just Paul finding a clever legal loophole to get off on a technicality, or is he weaponizing Roman constitutional law against his own people?
Oh, he is absolutely weaponizing Roman law.
Highly.
Yeah, this is a foundational pillar of Roman jurisprudence. The burden of proof required a face-to-face confrontation between the original accuser and the accused.
So hearsay wasn't going to cut it.
Not at all. Ananias and the elders from Jerusalem couldn't legally testify to what happened in the temple because they weren't the ones who initially detained him.
That makes sense.
So by pointing out the absence of the primary witnesses, Paul doesn't just poke a hole in the case. He legally vaporizes it.
Wow.
The prosecution literally has no standing.
So the legal defense is airtight, but Paul doesn't stop there. He makes this profound theological pivot to address the charge of leading a dangerous sect.
Right, the Nazarene sect charge.
Yeah, he admits to following the way, but he completely strips away the subversive framing. He aligns himself with the very Pharisees sitting in the room.
Which is brilliant.
Yeah. He states he serves the same God, believes the same prophets, and holds the exact same hope in the resurrection of the dead.
And that move puts Felix in a state of severe political paralysis.
How so?
Well, think about it. Paul has proven his innocence logically, procedurally, and theologically. Felix cannot legally condemn him.
Right.
But Felix is also desperate to keep the Jewish leadership from revolting against his already fragile role. So he cannot politically afford to release him either.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Exactly.
And this political paralysis leads to a bizarre 2-year standoff, creating one of the strangest psychological dynamics in the historical record.
It really is strange.
Felix stalls. He claims he needs to wait for the military commander, Lysias, to arrive before making a decision.
Oh, right.
But the text reveals Felix already had a highly accurate understanding of Christianity, or the way, and the historical context tells us exactly why. His wife, Drusilla.
Yes. To understand the tension of the private meetings that follow, you really have to understand who Drusilla was.
Set the stage for us.
Well, she was Jewish, the youngest daughter of Herod Agrippa I.
Wait, The Herod family.
Yeah, a family with a long, violent history of suppressing early Christian figures.
Wow.
Furthermore, her marriage to Felix was a massive public scandal.
I can imagine.
Felix had actually employed a Cypriot magician to treacherously entice Drusilla away from her first husband so he could claim her for himself.
That context makes Paul's private audiences with them absolutely wild.
It really does.
Because you have Paul, a prisoner in chains, brought before a corrupt governor and his stolen bride.
Yeah.
And he could have used this time to negotiate his release or flatter them or play the political game.
Take a bribe, offer a bribe, anything.
Exactly. Instead, he looks at a couple whose entire relationship is built on betrayal, lust, and stolen power. And he chooses to lecture them on righteousness, self-control, and the coming judgment.
It requires an astonishing level of moral courage.
I'll say.
He is basically holding a mirror up to the darkest parts of their lives.
And the text notes that Felix became terrified. He wasn't just experiencing a fleeting moment of guilt, right? He was gripped by existential dread.
Deeply terrified, yes.
But this raises a fundamental question about human nature when it comes to corruption. If Felix is genuinely terrified by the reality of divine judgment, why doesn't he just repent and release the innocent man?
Well, because fear doesn't automatically produce moral reform.
Sadly true.
Especially when financial greed is involved. Felix sends Paul away, saying he will call for him at a more convenient time.
Right.
And he does, repeatedly over the course of 2 years. But he isn't seeking spiritual enlightenment.
What's he looking for?
The historical reality of the Roman prudential system is that extortion was rampant, even though it was technically illegal.
Okay.
Felix was keeping an innocent man hostage, secretly hoping Paul's associates, who he knew had just brought a massive sum of charity money to Jerusalem, would pay a bribe for his release.
That is a staggering display of institutional rot.
It's completely corrupt.
The system is just completely broken. And Paul is left to languish in a cell for 2 years. And this stalemate only breaks because Felix's incompetence and extreme violence finally catch up with him.
Yes.
Rome recalls him, and he gets replaced by a new governor, Porcius Festus.
And you know, a transition of power in an unstable province is always a moment of extreme vulnerability.
And the local leadership immediately tries to exploit that vulnerability. I mean, Festus has barely unpacked his bags in Caesarea before he travels up to Jerusalem, and the chief priests ambush him with a request to transfer Paul.
Right.
But this isn't a legal maneuver. It's an assassination plot.
They want him dead.
Yeah. They know they can't beat Paul in a Roman court, so they plan to murder him on the road.
And Festus unwittingly protects Paul by insisting the trial must happen in Caesarea.
But when the proceedings resume, the dynamics have shifted.
Definitely.
The Jewish leaders hurl serious, unprovable charges, and Paul once again asserts his innocence. However, Festus is a politician.
Oh, completely.
He desperately needs to secure the goodwill of his new constituents right at the start of his term. So he turns to Paul and asks if he is willing to go to Jerusalem to be tried there.
Which is Festus openly pandering to the mob.
Yes, and Paul instantly realizes the Roman justice system in Judea has just completely collapsed.
Yeah.
If he agrees to go to Jerusalem, he is a dead man. So Paul plays the ultimate trump card. He invokes his absolute right as a Roman citizen and says, I appeal to Caesar.
Provoco ad Caesarem.
Yeah.
It is one of the most powerful legal mechanisms in the ancient world.
Really? How did it work?
Well, if a Roman citizen felt they were being subjected to a biased provincial court or an unfair magistrate, uttering those words immediately stripped the local governor of all jurisdiction.
Just like that.
Just like that.
Yeah.
The local proceedings had to stop instantly, and the citizen was guaranteed a transfer to Rome to have their case heard by the emperor's Supreme Court.
It's an undeniable mic drop moment.
It is.
But okay, I have to challenge the logic of this strategy. Looking at the timeline, the Caesar sitting on the throne at this exact moment was Nero.
Yes, it was.
So appealing to Nero feels like trying to cure a headache with a guillotine.
That's a good way to put it.
Right. You're bypassing a corrupt local judge, but you're handing your life over to a notoriously unstable, violent emperor. How is this a sound legal strategy?
It's a brilliant question, honestly, and the answer lies in the specific chronology of Nero's reign.
Okay, unpack that.
So this trial takes place around 58 or 59 AD.
Right.
Nero reigned from 54 to 68 AD. The first 5 years of his rule, which historians call the quinquennium Neronis, were actually characterized by highly stable, peaceful, and just administration.
Wait, really? Nero?
Yeah, he was heavily guided by his tutor, the Stoic philosopher Seneca.
Oh,
The madness, the cruelty, the burning of Rome, and the brutal persecution of Christians, all that came later.
oh wow, that changes the entire calculation.
Precisely. In 58 AD, the imperial court in Rome was actually the most objective, highly functioning legal body available to Paul.
That's wild.
It wasn't a suicide mission at all. It was the smartest, most rational move a Roman citizen could make to escape a kangaroo court.
Makes total sense now.
Yeah. And Festus confers with his council, likely just stunned that this Jewish prisoner just legally outmaneuvered him.
Oh, he had to be so embarrassed.
Totally. And he has no choice but to deliver the final verdict. To Caesar you have appeal, to Caesar you shall go.
Man, it's just fascinating to watch this play out. Because the institutional rot Paul is facing, the endless delays, the politicians pandering to the mob, the blatant demands for bribes.
Yeah.
It's a profoundly universal experience of dealing with a broken system. We may not face assassination plots or Roman governors, but navigating a bureaucracy that cares more about optics and money than truth, that's something that resonates today.
Oh, absolutely.
And throughout it all, Paul's integrity is just unshakable. He doesn't pay the bribe.
Yeah.
He doesn't back down when Festus tries to manipulate him. He uses the tools of the law available to him and refuses to compromise his moral center.
And, as we consider Paul's resilience, I actually want to offer a final observation on the mechanics of his survival.
Please do.
Consider the profound irony of his imprisonment. If Felix or Festus had actually acted justly and released Paul, what would have been the result? He would have walked out of the prison gates and almost certainly been ambushed and murdered by the mob waiting for him.
Wow. So the system's failure actually kept him alive.
Exactly. By being unfairly kept in Roman chains, Paul inadvertently forced the Roman Empire to act as his personal, heavily armed security detail for years.
That is an incredible way to look at it.
And when he appealed to Caesar, that same empire was legally obligated to provide him with a state-sponsored, fully guarded trip to the very heart of the world Rome itself.
Which is exactly where he had always intended to go to preach.
Right. The chains that were meant to bind him were, in reality, the armor that protected his mission.
I love that.
Sometimes, the very structure that looks like the ultimate obstacle is the exact mechanism paving your way forward.
The chains were the armor. What an incredible perspective to carry with us. Thank you all for joining us on this journey through Acts today. It has been a truly fascinating exploration of justice, strategy, and undeniable resilience in the face of profound corruption. As we sign off, I just want to say God blesses all the listeners.